Almost every single person will tell you your business will not work. Why are you building this? What's the purpose? An entrepreneur builds a business to make the world a better place. That's probably not a very good hit rate because we weren't very good at it. We now live in a world which is so transparent that customers, employees can see not just what you do, but how you do it.
Hi, I'm Simon, the founder and the Group Chief Executive of Octopus. You probably know Octopus from Octopus Energy, our energy company. Actually, the group is much bigger than that. Just like an octopus, we have three hearts. We're in financial services, we're in energy, and we're in education. And from total startup in March 2000 to current day, we've built a group of companies turning over more than £16 billion. We have more than 12,000 employees. And I have learned hundreds of lessons over the last 25 years, and these videos are designed to share some of those lessons and to help entrepreneurs at the start of their journey.
The first one is right out the starting blocks. Are you going to raise the money you need to start your company? And almost every entrepreneur will start closest to home, so they'll ask friends and family. That's exactly what we did. But then we had to raise a bit more money. So we were still about £2 million short. And so we did what we thought was logical at the time for a bunch of 24 and 25-year-olds. We used the phone directory, which back in the olden days, 25 years ago, you had a phone directory. We called financial advisors. We ended up calling 15,000 of them. It took us 9 months. And that just knocks any sense of entitlement, any kind of softness out of you really, really quickly. It's great grounding because actually building a business is often about sales and distribution. So you learn how to sell, you learn how to tell a story. So it's great training. And then you're successful and you raise your money and you don't really get to sit back and enjoy it because you've not even really started the journey yet. You now need to build a sustainable business. So our journey right at the start, we worked out, because we're a regulated company, we needed £2.25 million to start Octopus. And it's the only money we've raised in 25 years. So we've been very fortunate in lots of ways. But you break it down, £2.25 million, we raised about £500,000 from our friends and our family and our colleagues who are still working on the graduate training program at Mercury. And so we still needed to raise £1.75 million. That took us 9 months. You would come into work, you'd start at 9 o'clock in the morning, you'd finish at 5 o'clock at night, and you would make literally, probably difficult to make more than about 10 calls an hour, but you do that on repeat every day of the week for 9 months. And it's just the joy that knowing what you just need one yes or one maybe that makes all of that work worthwhile. And to us, it was just a numbers game. We just needed to call, in our case, 15,000 people to get 84 investors. That's probably not a very good hit rate because we weren't very good at it, because we were 24 and 25 years old and we had no experience of telling a story or trying to get people excited in what we were doing and the business we were trying to build. But we got there eventually. People often ask me, how different is the journey for an entrepreneur setting up on their own versus an entrepreneur setting up with others? You know, we set up Octopus as a team of 3. So in those really hard days when you literally have called for 3 weeks and not a single person has even shown interest, let alone invested in the business, being able to talk to each other and explain how difficult it was and kind of share that journey was made it much, much easier. But then when you get one of those people to say yes, that they're even interested, let alone investing, and then eventually they write you a check, then it's like a wonder drug. It's brilliant, makes you feel really, really good, and it allows you, kind of empowers you to get on with the journey again and again, which is what you need to do. And you know what the goal is, and like most entrepreneurs, you kind of got the Terminator gene. You're not going to stop until you hit it. As an entrepreneur, once you've raised your initial funding, and then you have the start of a business. So you have some funding, you can kind of get on with things. In our case, we're looking at that and saying, right, we're a regulated fund management company then, we needed to raise money for our first product. And the money we had on our balance sheet, the money we had in the bank was unbelievably precious. So entrepreneurs should always spend every pound they have almost like it's their last. And one of the things we did is we sent out direct mail. So we sent direct mail, so we sent flyers and letters out to the UK population saying, we've got this investment product, we think it's really interesting, would you like some more information? And I can still remember the stats now. This was 23.5 years ago because it's kind of burned into my brain. It cost us 50 pence to send out one piece of direct mail. So let's say we sent out 100,000 pieces of direct mail, that cost us £50,000. The call to action for customers was to call an 0800 number, which we answered. A team of 4 of us answered those phones, and a really good mailing, about 1.3% of the people we sent it to would respond. So in this case, 1,300 people would respond. We knew that about 30% of those would subsequently invest in our products. About 390 people would invest, And we knew on average they would invest £10,000 each. So that was £3.9 million. We knew how much we charged in the first year of the management fee, and there was an upfront charge on the product, and we could do the maths. So every time we spent £50,000 on our direct mail, we knew how quickly that would money come back again. Now that was our story. So everyone starting a business, if you're spending money, the key thing to think about is how long is it going to take you to get that money back in again? Because you have limited capital. The problem with lots of entrepreneurs, they have too much money and they spend it not very sensibly, and then they get to the end of it and then they need to raise some more money, and that means they get diluted and they don't have the discipline I think they need. I mean, we've been very lucky. We've built Octopus to, 12,000 people, billions and billions of pounds of turnover, off £2.25 million of investment 25 years ago. We've been very disciplined in how we've spent that money. When I talk about other companies, the thing that's always missing is kindness. So if you ask your friends and your family, tell me a time when a company has been kind to you, they almost certainly won't be able to answer the question. If they do answer the question, they'll come up with a very small company. It might be a local company, it might be a pub, it might be a hairdresser's, it might be a local grocer's, where they know who you are, they engage with you, and you're treated like an individual and a person. The issue is most companies are unable to scale that. So when you have 1,000 customers or 100,000 customers or 1 million customers, companies lose their personality. They don't stand for something, and kindness cannot happen if you don't have a personality. So they hire the wrong people. They hire for functional ability as opposed to values and behaviors. And so you start ripping out the heart and what a company really stands for. And you think about some of the really big companies in the UK today, which were set up hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and you think about how they treat their customers. I promise if the founder of those organizations came back to life and they saw what their business was doing and how they were treating customers, they would be really, really upset, because that's not normally why an entrepreneur builds a business. An entrepreneur builds a business to make the world a better place. And I think as things scale, people lose sight of what the primary objective was. Why are you building this? What's the purpose? When someone talks to me about the values of Octopus and says, just explain the values of Octopus, I'm explaining myself and my own personal values. And I think that's true for any entrepreneur. Their personality, their values are embedded and entrenched in every aspect of that company. Now, as a business scales and it gets bigger and bigger, the role of the founder changes a little bit. Yeah, but only a little bit, right? The chief executive founder becomes kind of the chief antibody founder, right? And a core part of that is to make sure you have the right people. So all the time I spend interviewing people, particularly the people who are running our businesses, they must have the right values and behaviors. So if I wasn't around, Octopus would still feel like the same company, would still behave in the same way. And that is always down to values and behaviors. It's not necessarily down to the functional ability of the individuals. So, and I think that's something that's really important for founders to understand. As their business gets larger and they need to bring other people in and people in leadership positions, they must share the same values and the same behaviors as you, or your business will change, and it will change to something you don't like. So you can't lose that aspect of the founder. They will be more intolerant of any change in culture, in values, in behaviors, in speed with which you make decisions. All these things are a great thing for the founder to hold on to, because they'll hold the bar higher than anyone else. But it's a real challenge as a company scales. You have to have the right team. The founder must interview them. They must get really good at interviewing, and they must understand that how people do things is always more important than what they do.